Well, winter is definitely upon us. This show is about the home and some great decorating tips. Stay with us. Hi, I'm Alan Smith. Welcome to the show. You know, in various parts of the country, it still feels like, well, fall. But in other parts, man, are they dealing with winter. They've been dealing with old Jack Frost for some time now. In today's show, we're going to focus on some of the glories of the season and visit some historic homes. In fact, we'll take a trip to a historic city where houses often surrounded tiny courtyard spaces. It's beautiful Savannah, and it's lush and green, even in winter. We'll also take a step back in time, way back in time, so to speak, by visiting the site of some very old Native American homes at Toltec State Park. It's absolutely amazing how science has unraveled so much information about these ancient people. We'll set out to find more about the relationship between the winter solstice and these magnificent mounds found all over the United States. And don't think we've overlooked your home. I've got some great alternatives to what you might hang on your front door during this holiday season. This craft project is well underway here in my workshop. And the component that's interesting to me is I've got some energy-saving devices that'll make your holidays sparkle. We'll also speak with a kitchen and bath expert about some of the latest innovations indoors. And while we're on the subject of kitchens, have I got a recipe for you? So stick around. America is certainly full of beautiful destinations. From coast to coast, I'm always taken with the architecture of a region, whether it be the mission-inspired buildings in California or the modern skyscrapers of New York City. But I also love old domestic architecture, the style of architecture applied to homes. I love Southern architecture, like you find in old cities such as Charleston and Natchez, and even Savannah. There's something breathtaking about moss dripping from the trees overhead and the streets lined with antique homes that have been in families for generations. During a visit to Savannah, we caught up with John Adams with the historic Savannah Foundation, and John tells us a little more about his hometown.
We feel fortunate, certainly myself, to be a trustee for Historic Savannah Foundation, which was founded in 1955. In fact, last year we celebrated our 50th anniversary. Historic Savannah Foundation's purpose is really to oversee the restoration and preservation of historic sites in the landmark district, and clearly have expanded well beyond that into the other 7 historic districts. In addition to the restoration and preservation of homes, we try to educate a lot of people as to its importance, and clearly tried to make new construction compatible with the historic landmark features. This house was actually built in 2000, and it was built to the specs of a mid-19th century home by Mills Lane IV. Mills Lane is responsible for the restoration and preservation up to as many as 20 homes in Savannah Landmark District. Savannah is unique in as much that when General Oglethorpe arrived in 1733, he had a plan for the city of Savannah, in which had squares, and I think initially there were as many as 23 or 25 squares in this plan, and each square represented a political ward, which was not autonomous but had a lot of the functions of the political aspect of churches and some self-sustaining procurement.
Up next, the colorful history of Native Americans who once lived on these lands, and a little later, winter decorating for your home. Stay with us. If you're like me, when you think prehistoric, you're probably like this little guy and immediately think of dinosaurs. But really, prehistory is just before written history, and there are signs of this time all around us if we just take a look. Rising up out of the Delta is one of the tallest remaining prehistoric American Indian mounds. This National Historic Landmark is located at Talltech Mound State Park on the Arkansas River. We traveled out there one wintry day to talk to Dr. Martha Rawlingson, an author and expert in archaeology, about how the Native Americans of long ago dealt with the winter solstice. But we discovered much more during our visit.
The term solstice means sun stands still because the position stays at one spot for several days. It's not a real critical position. The equinox is pretty critical. It moves rather quickly through the equinox position, but the solstice position stands still for a period of time. And people all over the world and for thousands of years have viewed these solstice positions as important, especially in terms of their calendar and their ceremonies, because the winter solstice with the sun moving back towards the north signaled the renewal of life. The agricultural techniques of the Indians were of course very different from ours, and we in fact at this site don't have any evidence of their agricultural techniques. Again, from the historic Indians we know that digging sticks were a common tool, and they didn't cut down all of the trees, they didn't clear fields so much as to put their fields in among the trees. But we have very little indication of how they were actually doing the farming.
We're cooking up something good in the kitchen and you're just going to love it. And next, getting your home ready for winter with a few decorating ideas. Plus, what's new in kitchen designs? We'll find out after this. Now I've got a little holiday project for you do-it-yourselfers. It's a lot of fun, particularly if you want an alternative to a wreath on the front door. I came up with this idea several years ago, and basically it's making a stocking to hang on the door, and I make it with just some basic materials like chicken wire, but you start with a brown paper template like this. Just cut out the shape that you'd like, a shape that fits your front door wherever you want to hang this, and then cut out 2 pieces of chicken wire to match that shape. And what you do is you just tie the chicken wire together along the edges to make the shape of the stocking or the boot. Now you want to leave the top open like this because you're going to be able to fill that in with lots of interesting Christmas things. And you'll tie up the back just by weaving the wire together. The next step is to take some burlap. Again, you just go back to your stocking template, cut out a piece of burlap, and then place the burlap over the chicken wire. Now what I do is use hot glue to secure the burlap onto the chicken wire. Now the reason for the burlap, as you can see, is to put sheet moss and let it adhere to this surface. Okay, now here's where you can make a decision whether you want this to sparkle or not. I love these. These are LED lights. They're battery operated. So you can turn these lights on and you can keep the battery pack inside the stocking, all right? What's great about these is that they last a long time and they don't get hot. So what I've done here is I started weaving the little LED lights through, and then I put the moss on top as I go around. What you can do is you can completely cover this stocking with the lights and the moss. It creates a great effect. All right, once you have all that in place, you can then decorate your stocking, which will begin to look like this, with all sorts of Christmas greenery, like these gorgeous holly berries. You can fill in the top with holly berries, or you can line the outer edge or the upper side of the stocking with it. And another thing to keep in mind, these little LED lights come in red. So you can pick up the red holly berry color throughout the stocking itself. Give it a try, it's a lot of fun. It's a festive door hanging. It's just amazing what you can do with some sheet moss, chicken wire, and some lights. Okay, while we're on the subject of decorating our homes, I wanted you to meet Wendy Glover from Kitchen and Bath Ideas. When I started planning the kitchen at my garden home retreat, I got some great advice from Wendy and I thought I'd pass it on.
The first thing you need to do when remodeling a kitchen is to decide what style you want to go with. If you're going to go with a contemporary, a soft contemporary, if you want to do a country kitchen with beadboard. Right now we're seeing darker stains, we're seeing glazes on top of the stains, we're seeing glazes on whites, and then also your traditional white cabinet. This is an example of a frameless cabinet. It's the construction of the cabinet. It eliminates the frame around the box, providing wider openings, wider drawer spaces. It's made out of 3/4 inch tops, bottoms, and sides that are doweled and glued together. In your drawers, you've eliminated the frame, which is 1.5 inches off of each side of the cabinet, top and bottom, around the drawer. You've also gone to an undermount guide, which makes your drawer that much wider. It amounts to about 15% more storage space in your kitchen. These are undermount guides. These particular ones are full extension, which means the drawer comes all the way out. You can see completely everything that's in your drawer. It comes out to the countertop, where standard drawer guides usually stop about right here, and you end up having this kind of dark area that you can't reach or get to. You tend to lose stuff. So you want to ask for the full extension guides. Another thing you need to think about when you're working on your kitchen, of course, is your countertops. That is a huge part of the kitchen. It's also a pretty big expense. Right now the trend is in granite, quartz products, mainly your slab surfaces. People want a smooth slab piece of countertop. They don't want any seams in it. They don't want to have to deal with grout lines. Tile is not nearly as popular as it used to be. You need to spend a lot of time when remodeling or designing a kitchen. A lot of people come in, they want to rush through it. They decide, oh, I'm ready for a new kitchen, and they want to have it done in a month. Sometimes it'll take you 1 month to 2 months just to design the kitchen. You want to spend your time, make sure you do it right. It's going to take time with the actual remodeling process. You're going to be without a kitchen for a long time, and you want to make sure when it's going back in that you're getting what you want.
This portion of B. Ellen Smith Gardens is brought to you by ProMix, the ultimate quality growing mixes for your potting and planting needs.
I enjoy visiting gardens where the family has really invested their time into creating something special. And that was certainly the case in the garden of Mike and Becky Owens, who participated in the garden tour during the International Master Gardener Conference in Little Rock, Arkansas.
We started our gardening in Arizona when we first got married.
We actually bought this house because of the gardens.
We loved the trees and the natural setting and what was already somewhat of an established garden here.
It's basically a woodland garden, but it has a formal part to it and an informal part to it, a part that we've let go natural, in which that part is the back part of the gardens, and it can only survive with the natural rain that it gets. But the formal part, it's an old garden that was built in around the 60s. They had more formal plantings, and we've kind of loosened that design up and had more curved beds put in.
The first thing that most people notice when they come in through our gate into the backyard is the water feature and then the greenhouse.
We put the water feature in its spot for the greeting, and we have an open iron gate, and you can actually hear it and see it as you approach the backyard. So it's very appealing to call you in.
We have other areas in the yard, like a patio, which is a stamped concrete patio, which we entertain on. And everything, the views from that patio were meant to really be good. So, for instance, you can see the greenhouse and the water feature. And then it's a point from which we actually walk the paths. We have a lot of paths which are mulched, and my wife and I will walk frequently down these paths. And there's a little secret hidden garden area back in the very back where my daughter and our next door neighbor used to play when they were little, and they have little teapots and a phone back there. We didn't tell her for years that it wasn't hooked up, but it's back there with little tables and things. We
spent a lot of time leveling them because she ran through the garden. So we had many years in which she enjoyed it, and I hope she takes that on for the next generation for her children and enjoy gardening as much as we did for her as well.
You don't want to miss this. Coming up, we have a great recipe to share with you. Now it's time for that simple and delicious garden fresh recipe I promised you.
Hi, today we're going to make my southern potato salad. We're going to have these potatoes already prepared, which started out as Idaho bakers. You bake these for about an hour at about a 350 degree oven. After they're done, you'll slice and dice set those aside, and then you're going to mix your dry ingredients and wet ingredients. We're going to start with the vinegar. We'll put in a 1/4 cup white vinegar, and then you add 1 cup of sour cream. For that, you add 1 cup of mayonnaise. You add in a tablespoon of salt, 2 tablespoons of sugar, 1 tablespoon of garlic powder, 1 tablespoon of white pepper, a 1/4 cup of bacon. I use a peppery bacon, makes it very spicy. And then your fresh ingredients, you're going to add fresh parsley, best if grown in your own garden, and some chives, and fresh green onions. All right, now that these ingredients are mixed thoroughly, we're going back to our potatoes. This is what the whole recipe is all about. And you mix your potatoes in, stir thoroughly. This is a great potato salad. Make ahead. It's best actually if you do make it ahead and let it sit for 2 or 3 hours to chill. And there you have it, Southern baked potato salad. This is a really easy recipe. You can make this in advance, put it in the refrigerator. You don't have to think about it. And believe me, it will be requested over and over again.
Well, that's all the time we have for today's show. I hope you've enjoyed it as much as I have. Boy, we covered a lot of ground, didn't we? Those ancient mounds, beautiful Savannah, and that recipe. You really should give it a try. Just remember, everything in today's show can be found on my website. That's pallensmith.com. And don't forget, when it comes to decorating for the holidays, have a little fun. Use some of these LED lights. Until next time, from the garden, I'm Alan Smith.
In this garden I dream of a bed of flowers. Bluebirds sing of the beauty all around us. And every time the sun comes out, I can't help but smile. Oh, no, I can't help but smile.